Hello, and welcome to this episode of Felonious, a podcast where we discuss the realm of true crime. From chilling cold cases to the wild and wacky, we'll explore it all with a perfect blend of seriousness and humour. My name is Emma.
And I'm Nazia. To keep up to date with what's coming up, be sure to follow us on Instagram at felonious.pod and visit our website feloniouspod.com. We hope you enjoy this episode, so let's get to it. So, what's this week's bants?
I did have 2 finds for this week, but I don't think we're going to have time for 2.
Yeah.
Because this case is quite... it's a long one.
Yeah, it is a bit, isn't it?
Yeah. I found this article at the start of October, and it's on the BBC News again, on their website. Man pleads guilty to stealing Wizard of Oz ruby slippers.
The original ones?
Yeah, the Judy Garland ones.
Oh, wow.
So they're quite old. I always wanted a pair of ruby shoes like Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, I love that movie.
Yeah, so do I. I think it's one of my favourite films. I think it's one of the first films I watched with my mum as well. So I have a lot of good memories. That and Mary Poppins.
Yeah. Bed knobs and broomsticks.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah.
And Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Yeah.
Oh, memories.
I know. I don't think my partner's seen any of those.
What? Oh, Chris hadn't seen Mary Poppins at all until a couple of years ago when I introduced him to it.
No way.
And he thought the movie was going to be absolute shit. But then after he saw it, he was like, oh, that's one of the best films I've seen. I was like, it is. It's great.
Oh, how hilarious.
Some parts of it haven't aged well, but a lot of the artistry in it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was quite clever what they did at the time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I thought about Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Yeah.
And Bed Knobs and Broomsticks. I loved Bed Knobs and Broomsticks.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah, I'm going to have to, when my daughter's old enough, she'll probably think, what a load of shit. But I'd like to think
this isn't in 4K. What the fuck?
I know. It's like, where's the impressive CGI or whatever they're going to have in the future? But I actually can't wait till she's old enough to watch movies with me.
Yeah.
It's going to be a while yet. But yeah. Anyway, yeah, Judy Garland's slippers.
Yeah, so a US man has pleaded guilty to stealing them in a museum heist.
He's quite old though, isn't he? 76?
Yeah. He's in poor health now, apparently.
Okay, right.
That's why I think he's confessed. I read this article about a month ago, so my memory's a bit sketchy about it. But the shoes that he stole, there's only 4 authentic pairs that remain from the 1939 film. In 2005, the slippers were on loan to the Judy Garland Museum, and the guy who stole them took a sledgehammer to the museum's emergency exit and took the item, which was insured at $1 million. He thought the rubies on the shoes were real gems, but when a stolen goods buyer met up with him, he was then informed that the rubies weren't real, and he didn't want anything to do with them in the end.
Oh, he'd committed the crime quite a while ago.
Yeah.
Over a decade ago. Okay, so he would have been about 60.
Yeah, so it was 13 years later that he...
13 years later that he was publicly linked to the crime when an FBI art crime team... Wow. Recovered the slippers in a sting operation.
Oh, okay, so they were helped by a man who knew who had the slippers, basically.
Yeah. I mean, the slippers, they're valued at over $3 million, which isn't, a small amount. But I guess when he took them thinking that they had real rubies, he probably thought that the rubies could be taken off the shoes and sold separately.
Yeah.
But then the buyer obviously found that they weren't real, and it's like, what the fuck are you going to do with a pair of shoes that are a very famous pair of shoes?
So he was also convicted in 1988 for receiving stolen goods. But there hasn't been a date set for his current trial. But he could get 8 to 10 years.
Well, bet he feels like a right Wally.
Yeah. Fancy thinking that those rubies were real.
Yeah, I mean, would you have thought they were? I guess actually, they wouldn't have had real rubies back in that time for a movie as well.
Yeah, the budget wouldn't have been.
Yeah, and also, why would you want real rubies on a pair of shoes?
Yeah, exactly.
On a movie set,
And why would you have 4 pairs of them at least?
Yeah. Oh, silly man. He doesn't know his movies well enough then.
No, he doesn't. No IMDb.
Yeah, exactly. They didn't have the internet back then, I suppose. Well, they did, but he didn't. Maybe he doesn't know how to use the internet.
Maybe it's prehistoric internet.
Yeah, who knows? Anyway, what are we talking about today?
Yeah, so today we'll be talking about Carlos Ghosn.
Are we going to do the European pronunciation of his surname, Ghosn, and not Ghosn?
Ghosn. Yeah, Ghosn's a bit easier to pronounce, isn't it?
Yeah. So just for listeners, from one of the documentaries, I think it was his sister who explains that the Lebanese pronunciation is Ghosn, which is quite harsh on the throat for us. But everyone, and Carlos himself, seems to be okay with it. It's pronounced Ghosn or Ghosn, whatever it is. I can't say it with my accent.
Your Cockney French accent.
I know. It's very conflicting for me right now. Carlos Ghosn.
Yeah, once a prominent figure in the car industry. He is the former CEO of Renault and chairman of Nissan, and now a much-wanted man in Japan and France. He was also a director at the aluminium giant Alcoa Inc., on the board of directors at Sony Corp., a chairman for the Russian car maker Avtovaz, and a CEO for Michelin in North America. He literally had all of his fingers in a lot of pies.
Yeah. I mean, he sounds like quite a big deal. I hadn't even heard of this guy until my brother mentioned him to me. And that's when I messaged you. I was like, oh, this sounds like an interesting case.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about him until you messaged me.
Yeah.
So it's been an interesting one, this.
Yeah, it wasn't what I expected at all.
No.
My brother told me about the Netflix documentary and briefly said what happened. And I was like, okay. And then it's quite a crazy one.
Yeah. So we'll find out what caused him to take a wrong turn, whose money he spent on fancy parties in Paris, and how he was helped in making his grand escape from Japan to Lebanon.
Yeah.
Now, we have quite a few jokes about Ghosn. Otherwise, what's the point of this podcast? We know he's currently involved in legal procedures, but that doesn't mean we can't make jokes, right?
Well, we can't afford a lawyer, so...
Yeah.
And in our defence, some of the jokes are from the documentaries themselves. We're just second-handing them.
Just paraphrasing.
Yes.
There's might be a bit of currency confusion in this. There's a lot of mentions of millions and billions of different currencies. There's yen, dollars, euros, pounds. No crowns, but a lot of dough.
Yep. The usual, maybe a bit of swearing.
Yeah.
I don't expect there to be too much, though, because it's not...
Fucking hell, Nausea.
Maybe. Don't know. I'm quite tired, so maybe I will swear unnecessarily. But yeah, we got most of our information from 2 documentaries. First one was the Netflix one, which is the one I'd originally heard about. And that one's called Fugitive and the Curious Case of Carlos Ghosn. And you found the other one, didn't you?
Yeah, that was an Apple documentary and it's called Wanted, The Escape of Carlos Ghosn.
Yeah, and that one actually has him talking a lot in it, giving his perspective.
Yeah, so he's done an interview with the documentary makers for that.
Yeah. So let's give a little bit of a brief background on Carlos Ghosn. So he was born in Brazil on the 9th of March in 1954 to George Ghosn and Rose Jazar. George Ghosn was the son of, is that Bichara or Bicara? I forgot to look this one up.
Bichara?
Let's go with Bichara. I might be very wrong, though. I'm not sure what the correct pronunciation is, so apologies if I've got that wrong. So his father emigrated from the French Mandate Lebanon to Brazil at the age of 13. The French Mandate Lebanon came to be after the collapse of the Ottoman Empire, when Britain and France made a secret agreement. France decided to divide and rule the regions that were mandated upon them. So, for example, they divided areas by religion and communities. Bichara Ghosn was a Maronite Catholic, and he was also an entrepreneur and headed several companies. George married Rose Bazar, a Nigerian-born Lebanese woman. George was a diamond trader, and in 1960 he was accused of murdering a priest, Boulos Massad, who he had organised to traffic diamonds from Africa. According to the Apple documentary, George and the priest had a disagreement and George asked for his money back. When the priest refused, George hired a local tough guy to scare him. So George and the local tough guy went to see the priest and threatened him, but he still refused to hand over the money and walked away. The priest was shot twice, and a car belonging to George was found at the scene of the crime. Both George and the tough guy blamed each other when they were questioned. George was found guilty and sentenced to death in Lebanon, but then saw his sentence commuted to 15 years. In the mid-1970s, after serving a few years of his sentence, he disappeared during the Lebanese War. One source says that he fled to Brazil. In 1960, Carlos moved from Brazil to Beirut, Lebanon, with his mother and sister to join his grandmother and two other sisters. Then, as a teenager, he went to Paris and studied at a number of France's prestigious schools. Quite a life already.
Yeah. During 1978 and 1996, Carlos Ghosn worked at Michelin. He started in manufacturing and became a plant manager when he was just 27. He was asked by Francois Michelin to help with the struggling South American division and was made COO, Chief Operating Officer, during Brazil's economic crisis. He turned the division around and made it into one of the most successful in the company. In 1989, he went to America and learnt English and soon became Michelin's chief exec of North American operations. He supervised the restructuring after the acquisition of American Uniroyal Goodrich Tire Company. This caught the attention of Renault's CEO, Louis Schweitzer, in 1996. Louis Schweitzer contacted Ghosn after hearing about his success at Michelin, and he wanted to hire him as a deputy and his successor. Renault was in the red for the first time in a decade, so Schweitzer was hoping Ghosn would work his magic in France to turn Renault into the successful car company it used to be. Francois Michelin warned Schweitzer to keep an eye on Ghosn, that he should not leave him alone and that he should phone him every week, which should have set alarm bells ringing.
Yeah, that's a bit of a red flag.
Yeah, I'd say so. Like, you're going to hire someone and someone's wanting you to be their minder?
Yeah. I guess Francois, for whatever reasons, couldn't be explicit. You know how, as a manager, you can't really write a bad reference.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's true.
So maybe Francois couldn't give him a blatantly bad reference or say whatever he wanted to say. So he just gave him a very cryptic warning.
Yeah.
Which didn't raise any red flags, apparently.
As Ghosn was Lebanese, Schweitzer told him it was a good idea to get French citizenship if he was going to take control of Renault. However, Ghosn had no desire to become French. The other directors and managers inside Renault didn't like him because he didn't take part in their social circles. He never attended social events with them, and he never took part in small talk in the office. He was considered an outsider. In less than a year of Ghosn being Schweitzer's deputy, Renault unexpectedly closed its Vilvoorde factory in Belgium, which employed over 3,000 people. This resulted in protests, lawsuits, and political pressures to keep the plant open. Renault pledged to maintain 400 white-collar jobs in the area and pay severance fees to those laid off. Carlos was then labelled the cost killer. However, after a couple of years, Ghosn's reorganisation led Renault from over 5 billion francs in debt to 12.5 billion in profit. Renault believed that it was relying too heavily on Europe and that they were too small of a company to team up with companies in America. They wanted to diversify their
market?
Yeah, they wanted to sell in other countries, basically.
Yeah, and also I think the American companies, they were too expensive, whereas Asia wasn't as expensive, so it made more sense.
Yeah. So they decided to team up with another car manufacturer that had to be based in Asia, for example, Korea or Japan. The Nissan was a respected car maker, but losing money and in trouble. Ghosn believed he could rescue the Japanese car manufacturer, and so on the 27th of March 1999, Renault took a 37% stake, invested 33 billion francs in Nissan, and made an alliance. Renault made an investment and so controlled Nissan. Nobody thought this partnership would be successful, but it had to be, otherwise Schweitzer and Ghosn would have been fired. Schweitzer has said that he would not have done this deal if he didn't have Ghosn leading the company.
So I have a little not so fun fact about Nissan. So in 1994, an Israeli immigrant in America called Uzi Nissan had his own business and his own website, which was Nissan.com. Nissan wanted the website and they sued him $10 million for it. After an almost decade-long battle, Uzi won, but it cost him everything. He lost everything just to keep his
name.
That website. Yeah, and so I don't know what the car manufacturer Nissan's website address actually is, but Nissan.com is just like a dead website.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that, actually.
Yeah, so I found that out very, very randomly. I can't remember. I think it was like a Reddit rabbit hole. And it wasn't even, I wasn't even looking up anything to do with Carlos Ghosn. It just suddenly came up on my suggested, I can't remember what the discussion was. And I was like, that's interesting.
Yeah, that's like when Joe Lycett, he changed his name to Hugo Boss.
Oh, yeah.
No, it's not the same thing at all, but it just reminded me of that.
No, because this was his actual birth name.
Yeah.
And like this guy, he was a self-made businessman. He had I think it was like computer parts, something like that. It was his own business that he created himself. And this giant company, Nissan, wanted to
steal it.
Sue him. Yeah. I mean, he won the court battle, but he lost everything else in life as a result of it. It's
Poor
quite
guy.
sad. By the autumn of 1999, old-time employees of Nissan were resentful and suspicious of Ghosn as he was an outsider, especially due to the cultural differences. As COO, Ghosn announced a plan to get Nissan out of debt and revive the company within 3 years. Nissan's employees feared they would lose their jobs, as they had seen what happened at Michelin and Renault under his control. He announced that Nissan would need to lose staff. 14% of the total workforce would have to go.
That's no small number.
No. And I can appreciate the employees having that fear because he'd done it. That's how he made his successes. And they were right. This is what he went ahead and did with Nissan. So factories were closed and staff were laid off, which doesn't happen in Japan. People just don't get laid off. So it's quite controversial. And as you can expect, this resulted in protests and backlash. Ghosn received death threats and he had to have security with him. Ghosn managed to get Nissan out of the red and back into profit. The firm went from producing 2.5 million cars to 5.7 million cars. It went from $20 billion in debt to $15 billion in profit in 3 years. In June 2001, Ghosn was made CEO of Nissan. Having him as CEO made the company more valuable with investors. He enjoyed his newfound fame, and in 2004, he received a blue ribbon from the Japanese emperor, making him the first foreign business leader to receive the honour. Time magazine awarded him the most respected businessman in the world, greater than Bill Gates. There was also a survey asking Japanese women who they would want to father their children with, and Carlos Ghosn was up there. Yeah. Each to their own.
Yeah. I'm not surprised this is a Japanese thing, this survey thing, but I'm just wondering if they continue to do it.
Yeah, I don't know. I wonder what the equivalent would be in other countries. Sexiest businessman in the US? I don't know. I don't want to think about that. He began to tweak his image. He got eye surgery so he didn't have to wear glasses. He changed his hair. I guess he got hair transplants.
Yeah, he got more hair.
Yeah, he wore better fitting suits and he wore shoes with thicker soles so he would appear taller. He was even awarded Father of the Year, even though he wasn't with his children a lot of the time. And his children, like he said that his children even commented on that, saying, how can you be Father of the Year when you're not even at home?
Yeah.
And Nissan employees referred to Ghosn as Mr. 7-Eleven because of his work ethic. During the same year, Ghosn was... Oh yeah, this is quite funny. So during the same year, Ghosn was driving a Porsche when he crashed into a motorbike in Tokyo. The rider and passenger escaped with minor injuries. I mean, it's bad that he hit a motorbike, but the fact that he was driving a Porsche and not a Renault or a Nissan vehicle is a bit ridiculous.
Yeah. And the fact he's a CEO of a car company.
Yeah.
And he crashes into a motorbike.
Do you think he paid for that Porsche with company money?
I must have done.
So in 2005, Schweitzer at Renault handed over the CEO baton to Ghosn on the agreement that he would stop being CEO at Nissan. Instead of delegating his responsibilities, he said he would hold both positions at Nissan and Renault for a few months to give time to find someone suitable as a successor at Nissan. Schweitzer believed it, but Ghosn didn't do that, and he ran both manufacturers. It's quite a big deal, like he's CEO of two massive companies in different parts of the world. Quite the task.
Yeah, he's been a cheeky boy.
Yeah, and it's like, how can you split your attention between both companies equally?
Especially when we'll find out later he's being paid differently in each company.
And we find out later that he can't meet the demands of both companies.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's quite ambitious of him. So Ghosn made a lot of money, which isn't culturally acceptable in France, and he was seen as an Asian dictator. In 2006, Ghosn was given an honorary knighthood from the Queen in the UK for his contribution to economic ties between Japan and the UK. However, he wasn't able to use the title Sir because he wasn't a British citizen. He's getting quite a few, what do you call it? But he got the blue ribbon in Japan, and now he's getting a knighthood.
He got Father of the Year.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, he's a busy boy, isn't he?
He is. No wonder his children don't see him.
Yeah. In 2007, Renault was being investigated for its working conditions due to 3 of its workers having committed suicide. One worker, a 38-year-old father, died at his home and left a letter explaining that his decision to end his life was due to work difficulties. Another worker died by suicide in Renault's Beehive complex. He had left his computer screen open on bitter communications with management. A third person also killed themselves in the same building. Renault's profits had dropped during 2006. It needed to cut costs by 30%, so it put a lot of pressure on its workers to do more hours. One of the workers that died by suicide had been working 90 hours a week, and he had lost 8 kilograms in weight in just 6 weeks. His wife wrote a letter to Ghosn explaining what her husband went through, but Ghosn never replied to the letter. Renault were later found guilty in 2012 for gross negligence.
So that's 6 years.
Yeah.
That those families had to wait for some sort of accountability.
Yeah, and not to even reply to the woman's letter. Not to even get, your secretary or someone under you to reply to her, just to, completely ignore it.
Yeah, that's crazy. And it must have been so, painful because this is a massive internationally known company.
And it's French people love Renault, don't they? They used to be a lot of pride in the Renault car brand.
I should ask my partner. But, he doesn't drive a Renault. None of his family do. But
maybe I'm wrong then. Maybe I'm being really racist.
Well, I asked him if he knew who Carlos Ghosn was, and he was like, yeah, he's like the Houdini. But yeah, that must have been quite 6 years just to get some sort of acknowledgement of losing someone close to you because of work. It's just absolutely ridiculous.
Now, every car manufacturer has its icon, and Nissan had the GTR, which they launched in 2007 at the Tokyo Motor Show. 800 journalists were crowded around the stage as Ghosn revved the engine of the GTR like a boy racer and drove it out onto the stage for the press to see, and he was caught smiling, an unusual sight for such a serious man. He said, "What you hear is the roar of Nissan's passion for performance. What you see is its ultimate physical expression," or something along those dramatic lines. Ghosn was a hero. He was in manga comics and he loved the media attention.
I mean, to be drawn as a manga character, that must mean a lot.
Yeah, that must be like really respected.
I'd be flattered.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, he's got very strong features, so he's got the perfect face to make to draw as a man. He's got very, very strong physical features that you can like do a caricature of.
I wonder how much hair they gave him.
Well, they had the powerful. I think they got the eyebrows spot on, definitely.
Yeah. He started to appear in all the magazines and was able to create his own fan club within Nissan, which secured his position further as CEO. Ghosn was free to do whatever he wanted and there was no oversight. Then the financial crash happened in 2008, which was disastrous for the car industry altogether. Renault had to get a loan from the government and Nissan was trying to preserve cash and pay its workforce, but it expected a profit of 160 billion yen. In 2009, Nissan reported that it would have to cut 20,000 jobs worldwide, 8.5% of the workforce, but promised that factories would not be closed. It was expecting a net loss of 265 billion yen. This was the first loss since Ghosn took over. He blamed a downturn in consumer confidence and the freeze on credit. Nissan also said it would cut its production in Japan by 64,000 vehicles. It stated on its website, bonus payments to the board of directors will be eliminated. Starting in March and until the situation clearly improves, salaries paid to board members and corporate officers will be reduced by 10%, and those paid to managers in Nissan and affiliate companies in Japan by 5%. In 2010, new rules in Japan were introduced which made Japanese companies disclose what they paid executives if they earned over 100 million yen. Before this rule, companies only had to disclose what the executives earned as a group. Ghosn's salary was 7 times higher than the CEO of Toyota. He was being paid 8 million euros by Nissan and 1.2 million euros by Renault, which people thought was excessive. His housekeeper said that he was quite conservative with his money though, and she also said that he looked like Mr. Bean, which he does.
See? Manga character. He's a cartoon.
I bet he doesn't have a bear though.
Yeah, that's true. Bloody hell, 7 times higher than the CEO of Toyota. And, you know, that's the other thing. He's CEO of both companies, so that's a lot of money.
Yeah, and it's a big difference between the two companies.
Yes.
Pay-wise.
Yeah, definitely. And also, if you're being paid as a CEO, you're working full-time for that company, so you're earning a full-time wage. Mm. He's getting paid 2 full-time wages, but surely he's not working full-time, logistically. No one can do that. No. But I think we mentioned later that he spent a lot of time in Japan rather than in France. Yeah. But it's crazy that he got away with it to begin with. Yeah. So in September 2010, executives at Renault received a letter naming 3 people: Michael Balthazard, a senior vice president of advanced engineering, his number 2, Bertrand Rochette, and Mathieu Tenenbaum, who's deputy head of the electric vehicle program, who were allegedly giving information about Renault's electric cars to a Chinese company and that they had received money to a bank account in Switzerland. The 3 people who were interviewed by Patrick Palata, who's former COO, and he was good friends with one of them and hoped he could convince him to speak out and admit to industrial espionage, but he knew nothing about it. All 3 people denied allegations and they knew nothing about the letter. They subsequently lost their jobs, and they did interviews with the media and refuted the claims against them. Ghosn then appeared on national TV, and his advisors told him not to talk about any evidence. But he went ahead and said there was certitude about there being industrial espionage. However, there wasn't any evidence in the first place, which is why his advisors told him not to mention it. There was no Swiss bank accounts that the three members allegedly received money to. It was all a hoax made up by a member of Renault's security team, Dominique Gevry.
Your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah, let's go with that because it's French. Which the media found out about. So Renault became the laughingstock, especially Ghosn. Renault came under fire for not informing authorities of its suspicions soon enough, as they carried out a private investigation first. The former Renault CEO, Louis Schweitzer, he knew it was all bullshit from the start. Ghosn and Pilata had to issue public apologies to the three execs who were fired. A month later, Ghosn went back on TV and said that he, along with the company, were mistaken and said that they were deceived. By who? Anyway.
By the security.
It's just shambles, isn't it?
Oh, no. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know with him.
The French president, Sarkozy, demanded that someone resign, which meant that it had to be Pilata, the COO. He had to go to protect Ghosn. Michel Balthazard seeked damages of 9.2 million euros. Other employees thought that upper management had lost the plot, understandably, and it was the beginning of the end for Ghosn. On the 11th of March 2011, Japan experienced its strongest earthquake in recorded history at a magnitude of 9.1, which caused an even more devastating tsunami. Both the earthquake and the tsunami killed almost 20,000 people. It caused multiple meltdowns at the Fukushima nuclear plant, in which tens of thousands of residents had to be evacuated. Japan's car manufacturers were financially hit by this event. Nissan lost 20% net profit during the period April to June. Greg Kelly, former representative director of Nissan, emailed Ghosn, who was in France, about the tsunami, but he didn't come back to Japan for another 10 days, which, as we mentioned earlier, he can't, like when I'm sure Nissan needed him.
Yeah, he can't divide his attentions.
Yeah, and like that's, such a devastating event.
Yeah, I remember that, actually.
Yeah, and like any CEO you'd think would like be rushing to do whatever they need to for their company.
Yeah, be the spokesperson for the company. Yeah.
And like show your face.
Yeah.
But 10 days is not going to give much confidence to the company workforce.
It's a bit of a piss take, really.
Yeah.
Because you're forcing these people to work so hard, and you're not going to even turn up when they, at a time when they most need you.
Yeah, exactly. In 2013, Ghosn became chairman of the Russian car maker Avtovaz, Russia's biggest car company and known for making Lada cars. Renault and Nissan made an agreement with a company called Russian Technologies to make a joint venture in which Russian Technologies had the majority stake. Renault paid $1 billion for a 25% stake back in 2008 and injected millions more afterwards. Ghosn stepped down as chairman in 2016, but said he would still play an active role in the company. A separate communiqué from the company said otherwise. Ghosn had brought Renault to Russia at Putin's request, and it was a 15-year relationship which saw Renault's stake in Avtovaz grow to 68%. But the relationship ended temporarily in 2022 due to Putin's war on Ukraine. Renault struck a deal with a Russian research company and sold its 68% stake for a symbolic €1, with an option to buy it back in 5 or 6 years. It suspended its operations in 3 Russian factories and were expecting to take a reduction of $2.2 billion in assets. $1 billion. 2.2 billion euros. So many currencies in assets.
We did say in our disclaimer there will be confusion.
I know.
2014 marked the 15th anniversary of the alliance between Renault and Nissan. Instead of celebrating it on the actual day, Ghosn organised for a party to be held at the Palace of Versailles on his 60th birthday instead, and it was paid for by Renault and Nissan.
Also, 15th anniversary is such an odd number. Who celebrates anything on the 15th?
I know, but a lot of people celebrate 60.
Yes.
Apparently, the Palace of Versailles wasn't available on any other day, and it was coincidental that this work event happened on the same day as his 60th birthday. We've all had that happen, and it's a very common problem when I arrange birthday parties. The party cost €630,000.
Bloody hell.
The Palace of Versailles is more extravagant than Buckingham Palace. There were long tables with guests in every seat enjoying croquembouche, which is a taro profiteroles, and it means crunch in the mouth, probably because of all the coins hidden inside the cream-filled rolls, crunching away. And musicians and dancers were dressed in 18th century outfits. Did you see videos of this?
Yeah. And they had like a fireworks display and everything.
Yeah. It was an elegant party that was enjoyed by guests mostly made up of friends of Ghosn, VIPs and celebs. We don't know if Prince Andrew was on the guest list, so don't ask. 95 out of 150 people were not involved in the alliance between Renault and Nissan. Louis Schweitzer, the former CEO of Renault, was not invited. According to the COO at Nissan, Andy Palmer, because of the cost cuts, it meant that from board level down, the workers had to buy their own stationery. Ghosn instilled frugality in Nissan, so seeing pictures and videos of this lavish party didn't go down well at all with the workforce. It wasn't just the party, it was the tickets to World Cup events, private aeroplanes. He was spending less energy and time on Nissan compared to when the alliance first started.
I mean, he's living up to his nickname of being the Asian dictator.
Yeah, totally.
He's living this very extravagant lifestyle while his staff are having to buy their own bloody stationery.
Yeah. If that was me, I would just get one of those multicoloured pens, with the...
Yeah, I love those pens.
Yeah. They're so handy as well. Such a good invention.
Yeah.
In 2016, Ghosn paid $200 million for Nissan to be a sponsor of the Olympics and casted himself to take part in the torch relay. Nissan also supplied 5,000 cars for the Brazilian Olympic team to use. His torch relay didn't go as planned, however. He was supposed to finish his 200-metre run with the torch in front of a hotel, which was decked out in advertisements for Nissan's newest car. The route got changed and the arrival of the torch was delayed. Ghosn's run was cut short, and when he walked to meet visiting reporters, security guards swarmed him.
I mean, what? He's really power tripping.
He is.
At this point, what business does he have carrying I thought people that carried the Olympic torch had to be respectable people.
Yeah, and who do good in society and...
Yeah.
And do something for the Olympics in general, rather than just some mad, fame-hungry twit.
Yeah, some capitalist Mr. Bean.
Yeah. Also in the same year, Nissan took a 34% stake at $2.3 billion in Mitsubishi Motors. It made Renault, Nissan, Mitsubishi the second largest car manufacturer in the world. I'm surprised Ghosn didn't invest in other well-known Japanese companies like Canon, Uniqlo, Nintendo, Toshiba. Just some companies that come to mind.
See what you did there.
Oh.
Couldn't help yourself.
Oh, I couldn't. I was frantically looking up Japanese companies to do with those letters.
You did good.
Yeah, thanks. I'm quite pleased with myself. In 2017, Hiroto Sakawa was promoted to CEO and Ghosn stepped down but kept his role as chairman. Nissan made a profit of $5.8 billion and accounted for a sizable chunk of Renault's own earnings. It was reported that Ghosn earned $17 million in salary, share options and bonuses. Ghosn also paid a Lebanese artist friend, Nadim Karam, $888,000 to create a statue, Wheels of Innovation, for the entrance of Nissan's HQ. On Nissan's website, the 5-metre tall steel sculpture represents the company's values and transformation over the past 17 years. It features 5 unique wheels to represent the drivers for Nissan's growth: globalization, sustainability, challenge, alliance, and diversity. And 6 months later, they added another wheel to represent greed. Oh, no, wait. That was on Ghosn's personal set of wheels. Oh, no, wait, that's just a joke. The art piece looks very nice and expensive, though.
Yes, it's a very pretty piece of art.
Yeah. Do you like my editing?
Yes, I think it really adds to the aesthetic.
Yeah. I think it would be worth a lot more money if they did that, actually, in real life.
So in 2018, Renault shares rose by 8% on rumours of a merger with Nissan. In 2010, Ghosn had said that it would never happen, but he changed his mind. Nissan was afraid of the merger. Ghosn's phone records showed the whole picture of his wealth and that the merger would earn him €1 billion.
Ka-ching!
Yeah. It came to light that Nissan had paid Ghosn $69 million between 2010 and 2015, but Ghosn only disclosed half of what he made. Greg Kelly was suspected to have helped him. On November 19th, Ghosn was on a flight back to Tokyo for a regular visit with no suspicions of what was about to happen. He had scheduled a board meeting there as well as a meeting with the governor of Nissan. He was also planning to meet his daughter for dinner there. When he arrived at the airport, they said there was something wrong with his passport. He was then approached by a man who said he was from the Tokyo prosecutor office and asked Carlos to go with him for questioning. Nissan had raised the charges. The media was informed beforehand that he was going to be arrested and were waiting for him at the airport. Greg Kelly was also arrested. 10 days before his arrest, he received a call in America from an exec in Japan and was told to go to the HQ in Japan. They chartered a flight specifically for him. After getting off the plane in Japan, Kelly was put into a van, followed by other individuals. He was taken hostage by authorities and taken to the detention centre. Kelly and Ghosn were held at the Kosugi Detention Centre in Tokyo. Kelly was interrogated and they wanted him to turn on Ghosn. Shares in both Renault and Nissan dropped. There was an investigation report done by Nissan, headed by Harry Nudder, a British lawyer and loyal to Nissan. He was the one that phoned Greg Kelly and told him to go to Japan. Greg Kelly had trusted him, but Nudder stabbed him in the back. Both Greg Kelly and Harry Nudder were behind the plans to get Ghosn more money. Nudder wanted to get rid of Ghosn for misconduct. Nudder came up with the plans for a post-Ghosn future at Nissan and what would happen if he was arrested. It was a conspiracy. Ravinder Passy was involved in looking at the misconduct of Ghosn. He noticed that certain executives were involved. Passy raised concerns about Nudder's role, and within 3 days, Passy was removed from investigations. He was followed by Yokohama court authorities who came to his house to raid in order to recover the company laptop and phone. Nissan had hired people to follow Passy. Passy was given 48 hours notice of his removal as Global General Counsel after 8 years of living in Japan. And there's a video footage where they come to his house and it's quite intimidating.
Yeah,
his wife and kids are there.
Yeah, it's quite aggressive.
Yeah, you can understandably, he's quite agitated by it.
Yeah.
Which I would be.
Yeah, same.
Harry Nudder was worried that he would be caught for his role in plans to make Ghosn flushed with cash, but figured that his cooperation in investigations would buy him legal immunity. He was right, and he managed to get a plea deal.
That Harry guy is just something else.
Dodgy as fuck.
Yeah.
And I think for the Japanese authorities, they could have easily have denied him immunity, but then maybe they wanted Ghosn gone as well.
Yeah, I think they were just solely focused on Ghosn, like the big fish.
And like he kind of did them a favour.
And he was respected in Nissan, this Harry, apparently.
Yeah. So the media got wind of Nada's conflicts of interest, and he was removed as head of the legal and security departments at Nissan and was given the title of senior advisor overseeing special projects. Nissan said it found no evidence of inappropriate involvement by Nada in the internal investigation into executive misconduct. That's quite convenient for an internal investigation.
Especially about a lawyer.
Yes. Ravinder Passy, now living in the UK, has filed 2 lawsuits against Nissan for wrongful dismissal, and Harry Nada still occupies an office on the executive floor at Nissan's HQ in Japan. Ghosn's defence lawyer, Takashi Takano, met him for the first time on the 14th of February in 2019. He had been in custody for 3 months in solitary confinement and had been questioned by the police every day for 12 hours without the presence of a lawyer, and was threatened to confess, otherwise his family would be investigated if he didn't. Lawyers in Japan call this arrangement hostage justice. Ghosn said he was a hostage of a country he had served for 17 years. He was able to contact his wife for the first time since his arrest, and she went to see him. According to her, he had lost lots of weight and his skin was yellow due to the lack of sunlight exposure. Carol Ghosn hired a human rights lawyer, Francois Zimmeray, who was aware of the conditions in the Japanese prisons. He considered it as legal torture. In Paris, Carol contacted Human Rights Watch and saw the then president of France, Nicolas Sarkozy, who told Carol that she should act as Ghosn's spokesperson. She asked the French president to put pressure on the Japanese government to respect human rights and the right to a defence or to be tried in France. She did lots of press interviews to which Nissan questioned the news broadcasters why she was allowed to do this, according to her. The UN was asked to step in as his bail request was denied twice. He was finally granted bail, which was nearly $9 million. He had to give up his phone and was monitored by CCTV and GPS. His lawyer asked the prison to allow them to use the back entrance so that the press were not aware, but the request was denied. So his lawyer came up with the idea for a disguise for Ghosn so that the press wouldn't recognise him. However, it didn't work. His disguise was a workman's outfit, blue cap with blue and orange overalls and a face mask. It was a pitiful attempt of a disguise which was mocked by the Japanese media, with one TV station showing I thought it was a real guy, but it might have been a mannequin.
I think it was a mannequin, yeah.
It looks very convincing. So they showed a mannequin wearing the exact same outfit.
Yeah.
And they were kind of like ripping into it.
Yeah, they were mocking him. Which, I mean, it was a bit stupid. You could totally tell it was him.
Yeah. I mean, Japanese, I don't know much about the Japanese justice system, but it all sounds really harsh.
Yeah, it sounds horrendous.
Yeah.
I know he's done a lot of, dealings and bad things, but he doesn't deserve some of the treatment he's received.
What do people with, much darker criminal records, what do they go through?
I dread to think.
Wasn't it his lawyer who said in one of the documentaries that there's a 99% conviction rate?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, completely mad.
Yeah.
His lawyer later apologised for the disguise fiasco and said in a blog post, "Due to my amateur plan, the fame he has built over a lifetime was tainted." I'm pretty sure it wasn't the disguise that did that.
Yeah.
Ghosn was waiting for a trial date and had no idea how long he would have to be in Japan to get a fair trial. On April 4th, Ghosn was rearrested and his house was raided. They took his wife's phone and passport, and they found a hard drive belonging to Ghosn's late lawyer containing evidence of diverting funds, tens of millions of dollars, into a subsidiary. Ghosn's explanations were no longer sufficient. A journalist got hold of the contents of the hard drive with a detailed hidden flow of money dating back to 2008 when Ghosn took a big pay cut. The tens of millions of dollars was from Omani billionaire Suhail Bawan and others close to him. In 2004, he set up a car dealership called Suhail Bawan Automobiles. which bought and sold Renault and Nissan cars in Oman and other Middle Eastern countries. In 2011, Renault and Nissan gave special bonuses to this dealership, $50 million, a direct order from Ghosn. A similar amount of money ended up in Ghosn's pocket, by $50 million going from the car manufacturers to the dealership, and then $50 million going to shell companies in Lebanon controlled by Ghosn, Sahel Bawan, and others tied to the car dealership. He looked like a thief. Ghosn said about this in the Apple documentary, "There was no conflict of interest. Sahel Bawan has no interaction with the distributor. I have lots of friendships, contact with people who could be relations or friends to distributors. Doesn't mean I need to declare them. The main shareholder in the distributor in Oman is Sahel Bawan's son, Hamad. Sahel Bawan set up the car dealership and then gave all the shares to his son. And according to Ghosn, all payments made to the distributor were justified and many execs of both Renault and Nissan signed off on it. Money for a 120-foot yacht came from Oman by way of one of Ghosn's lawyers. The Ghosn family used it to tour the Mediterranean. They had joined the club of the ultra-wealthy. Ghosn said that it is the property of the company. He is using the yacht presently and pays for the employees on board. On April 25th, Ghosn was released a second time and paid $4.5 million in bail. His lawyer told Ghosn the condition from the judge was that he couldn't have contact with his wife. The trials were planned to be successive. Ghosn was 65 years old. The trials would take years. He thought he wouldn't get a fair trial, so he made plans to leave, and he chose his escape destination wisely, which was Lebanon, as it didn't have an extradition treaty with Japan. Ghosn lived in a court-monitored house. People were following him everywhere, and his calls were monitored. There were also surveillance trucks placed outside, which Ghosn's lawyer said was illegal. According to Carol Ghosn, a friend told the family that he could help in the escape. That person was Michael Taylor, a former Green Beret for the American Special Forces, who was assigned to the conflict in Lebanon in the early 1980s. He then became a private security consultant and was hired by the New York Times to help rescue one of its reporters, David Rode, when he was kidnapped by militants in Afghanistan. Despite Taylor trying to negotiate with the kidnappers, Rode escaped himself in 2009. He was able to help a woman and her 3 kids escape her abusive husband in Lebanon after another security firm hired by the woman's family in the US bungled the job. The wars in Iraq and Afghanistan provided good work for Taylor and his security firm. They trained commandos, guarded infrastructure in Iraq, and protected people investigating mass graves for possible war crimes. He got into a bit of a sticky situation though in 2011. He was given notice from an old Special Forces friend about a contract to train Afghan soldiers to manage Special Forces supplies. Taylor's private security firm won a small contract that would turn out to grow to $54 million in billings. Some of this money was given to Taylor's associates, according to authorities. The FBI found out about this and Taylor tried to bribe one of the agents, promising millions of dollars. He emailed his accomplices in the scheme, "I will make you guys more money than you can believe, provided they don't think I'm a bad guy and put me in jail." Well, he was found out and sentenced to 2 years in prison but released after 14 months. During the proceedings, the prosecutors referred to him as Captain America.
Oh, God.
There were other past cases in America that included illegal wiretapping and filing a false police report and paying a federal agent to avoid charges of labour racketeering. Oh, and he also released a sports drink called Vitamin 1, a sugar-free vitamin water aimed at sporting athletes and military people.
What a guy.
What a life he's had so far.
I know. Well, it doesn't end there for him.
No.
So Michael Taylor's sister-in-law is cousins with Carol Ghosn. He didn't agree with the injustice of Ghosn's conditions in Japan, so he decided to help. His son Peter Taylor was also involved, and Peter visited Ghosn in Japan and took care packages and passed on messages from Michael. It was either by boat or air that Ghosn would be taken to Lebanon. As it was December, the seas were rough, and Ghosn wouldn't have been able to handle that in his condition, so the quickest way was by air. Ghosn managed to get a burner phone from the black market, which he used to talk to Michael Taylor, as it couldn't be traced by the authorities. They chose a private airport where there is less scrutiny. Because Ghosn was a high-profile individual, they had to hide him. The airport scans baggages on the way in, but not the way out. Taylor chose a music box and came up with a story that they were musicians. Ghosn, understandably, thought it was crazy. Another problem was that he was still being followed by surveillance. Ghosn contacted the press about being followed. When the press turned up, the surveillance didn't show. When the press disappeared, the surveillance came back. And he says, because the Japanese are organised, they were also predictable, which worked in his favour. New Year is a big holiday season in Japan, so nearly everyone goes on vacation at this time. At 11 a.m, Michael Taylor flew into Kansai Airport in Osaka with music boxes that were custom made. He wanted to confirm the airport checked luggage on the way in, which they did. The operation had to be quick. He took the boxes to a hotel and took the high-speed train to Tokyo to meet Ghosn. Before leaving the apartment, Ghosn contacted the press so that the surveillance would disappear. Ghosn left the apartment at 2 p.m. At 3 p.m, he met Peter Taylor at the Grand Hyatt. Ghosn got a call from Michael to say that he was arriving, but Ghosn had no clue of the plans for escape. Ghosn changed his appearance in the hotel and wore a mask, and as it was the pandemic, that was normal, and he got in a taxi to the train station. It was a pretty busy train at 5 p.m, so it was very risky. Anyone could have recognised Ghosn. He was apprehensive because if he was caught, his life would be over. Carlos arrived at Osaka at 7:20 p.m. and went to the hotel Michael was staying at. He then put Carlos in the music box, which had holes drilled at the bottom so that he could breathe. At 10 p.m, the cargo crew was ready to pick them up. Michael planned what he says was an optical illusion. He put a guitar case on top of the music boxes so people would think that they were musicians.
That light bulb moment. It's not even, elaborate.
Yeah, and you watch the security footage and you think, how? How have they gotten away with this? It just seems too obvious.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Maybe that's how it worked. It needed to be too obvious to get away with it.
Yeah, I guess so. Ghosn could hear everything, but he couldn't see what was going on. They arrived late at the airport intentionally, so they were moved through quickly to make the flight. The airport staff made a joke about a pretty woman being inside the box. They asked what was in the box, and Michael said it was a very valuable instrument and that it couldn't be scanned. So they were just let onto the plane. And I think I remember they were almost scanned because I think Michael even said because it was the holiday, they had temporary staff or part-time staff. So it wasn't the usual staff members that followed protocol. And the lady at the security check-in, she wanted to check. And he was like, no, this is valuable. If it goes through the scanners, you're going to destroy the instrument. And she was like, oh, okay then.
And then another guy was like, oh, I hope you haven't got a dead body in there.
Yeah, exactly. If I was Carlos Ghosn, I would have been sweating.
Yeah, I would have been shitting my pants.
Yeah. Once the cargo doors were shut, Michael requested for departure, but the Japanese denied it. They were worried the authorities had found out about the plan. The permission for takeoff finally came after a few tense moments, and Michael was able to get Ghosn out of the box once the plane had left the airport. They flew to Beirut via Istanbul.
Do you imagine the crew members on the plane? He comes out of the box. It's just like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I mean, how did...
Unless they were in on it as well, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe Michael bribed them.
He's good at doing that.
But kudos to Carlos Ghosn. He managed to stay quiet and still.
Yeah.
If that was me, I'd suddenly need to go to the toilet for a wee.
Yeah.
And I'd be in agony trying, because I always need to wee at the worst possible moments.
Especially in nerve-wracking times.
Or I'd get really nervous and do a loud fart or something.
That's why the holes were drilled in.
Yeah. But kudos for him, especially at that age.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
I mean, that can't have been easy to be in that box for that amount of time.
Yeah, and like being jostled around as it's being wheeled across.
Yeah, but if it means like a long time in, Japanese prison, what would you rather do?
Yeah, that's true. So on the 8th of January 2020, Ghosn gave a press conference in Beirut. Many people in Lebanon believed his wife was the mastermind behind the escape plan. Ghosn said, "For the first time since this nightmare began, I can defend myself, speak freely. I did not escape justice, I fled injustice. These allegations are untrue and I should never have been arrested in the first place. A corrupt and hostile system that presumed my guilt from day one. I would be ready to stand trial anywhere." Lawyers contacted Michael Taylor after CCTV footage of him at the airport with the music boxes were seen by authorities. Taylor had flown back to the US to face the consequences. But why did Ghosn really escape Japan? Japan authorities sent the data they found on the hard drive they had seized to the French. And it's got to be quite embarrassing for Japan that Ghosn literally slipped through their fingers.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they didn't have to give him bail, but it was only because they had pressure from the UN for his human rights that he got bail. And they're probably thinking, like, if he didn't have bail, he would,
Yeah, they're probably thinking, why did we remove those surveillance trucks? Should have kept them there.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. That doesn't make sense. When the press turns up, the surveillance does, that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense to me either.
But it worked in Ghosn's favour, and it sucks for the Japanese authorities. A story emerged that millions of dollars of Renault expenses were used to pay for Ghosn's jet flights to Ibiza, where Renault had no corporate operations, skiing in America, flights to beautiful islands in South America, with flight logs showing meeting. But he had family members on board and lavish parties. Kind of sounds like members of the Tory government. And reminds me of my first boss at the NHS. Fun fact, she used to take us shopping and put it in the diary as supervision meetings.
Oh.
I know, she was not a great boss. But yeah, it just reminded me of that. I had flashbacks of my initial career in the NHS.
Oh, God.
However many years, yeah. But yeah, sadly, I didn't go to Ibiza or anything like that.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, but it wasn't on NHS expenses.
Oh, yeah, not on the NHS time.
No, I had to pay for that with my own money.
I wonder if Carlos went clubbing.
Yeah.
What's the point of going to Ibiza otherwise?
Apparently, there's a nice chilled side to the island, which I obviously never saw. I was on the other side with all the debauchery.
I wouldn't expect anything else, Nadia.
But no, there is like a nice chilled side to the island, apparently. So, yeah, maybe he went there. His wife says Renault were being petty, criticising Ghosn over the party he had when he made them millions and millions of dollars. Of course you'd say that. You're benefiting from it.
Yeah, you're bloody rich.
Yeah. You got to have a party in the Versailles.
Yeah.
Renault and Nissan were unknowingly involved in paying for luxury homes for the Ghosns in Paris, Brazil, and Lebanon. Renault employees were outraged, and the story ruined Ghosn's standing in France, understandably. Meanwhile, Michael Taylor's son, Peter, was arrested by armed police for his part in the escape plan. Michael Taylor was also arrested and feared extradition. He felt sorry for his son. He didn't really know anything about the plan, according to his father. The Japanese authorities went after the Taylors because they couldn't get Ghosn.
I'm wondering if they thought, if we arrest these two, Ghosn's going to feel sorry for them because they've helped him escape. So he's going to want to, come back and...
I don't know. Or maybe their pride was hurt so much at losing Ghosn, they just thought, well, someone has to be punished.
Yeah.
And the Taylors were probably easy pickings. And if Ghosn came to help them, bonus for the Japanese authorities. But Ghosn didn't help the Taylors. He just said, well, they knew all the risks. Just pretty shitty.
Yeah, what dickhead.
Greg Kelly was living in Japan with his wife under house arrest. Kelly was accused of helping Ghosn and faced up to 10 years in prison in Japan. On the 15th of September 2020, it was found that Greg Kelly had nothing to do with the more serious charges against Ghosn. Kelly had to wait 2 years for a trial, though. And he was also waiting for spinal surgery at that time as well.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, in one of the documentaries, he was like banging on about it because he's like also in his 60s. And I don't know if it was while they were in America when he got the call to go to Japan and he was ambushed. Like he was waiting for spinal surgery and then he was like put in prison, similar conditions as Carlos Ghosn, having to sit and lie on the floor. He's a 60-year-old man and he's got a bad back. So that must have been, like, whether he's innocent or not, that must have been quite uncomfortable for him.
Yeah.
There was money diverted to other companies that Ghosn and his entourage had a personal interest in. The French justice system went to Lebanon to see Ghosn, where they interrogated Ghosn for 3 days, concentrating on the hard drive and laptop used in Beirut, stolen by Nissan lawyers. According to Ghosn, though, they didn't even belong to him.
Of course they didn't.
Mm.
On March 1st, 2021, Michael and Peter Taylor's appeal against extradition was denied by the US. They were disappointed in America and felt betrayed. They both accepted a plea deal after 14 months in jail. America and Japan have an extradition treaty which was respected in this case. They pleaded guilty as they both faced 3 years in a detention centre if it went to trial. Michael was sentenced to 2 years and Peter was sentenced to 1 year, 8 months. Both the Taylors were sent to Yokohama prison and Peter was placed in solitary for 13 months. They both heard nothing from Ghosn. 15 days of solitary confinement is considered torture anywhere else. Michael spent 17 months in solitary, where prisoners can't exercise, must sleep and eat on the floor, no heating is available, and they had no shoes to wear. It was apparently so cold that Michael suffered from frostbite and heat stroke in the summer. Prisoners are given work in their cells. Michael was told to tear little pieces of hard paper. It was all a psychological game. Michael's father was dying of cancer at the time and his request for a phone call was denied. His father died while Michael was in prison. Now that's pretty sad.
Yeah, they did this huge favour for Ghosn and they end up in prison.
Yeah, he leaves them in the lurch.
Yeah.
And doesn't even bother to help them.
No. Or, like, communicate with them.
Yeah. And his father dies while he's in prison. You can't even have a phone call with him.
Yeah. Let alone be there in his last moments.
I mean, it doesn't matter what a person's done. That shouldn't happen to anyone, really.
Yeah.
On March 3rd, 2022, Greg Kelly's trial ended and he received a 6-month suspended sentence and was allowed to return to America. He was adamant he had done nothing wrong. And on April 22nd, Kelly went back home to Nashville. He was acquitted on 7 of the 8 charges. Nissan filed a civil suit regarding Ghosn's compensation and wants Greg to pay $12 million, which is well beyond his means. In Tokyo, Michael Taylor's lawyer sent a letter to the UN explaining his situation in jail and that he was being tortured. His lawyer arranged for a transfer to the US. They had both lost a significant amount of weight. France issued arrest warrants for Carlos Ghosn. SBA founder Sahal Bhawan, 2 of his sons, and a former general manager for suspected money laundering and corruption. Sahal Bhawan denied taking part in the offences covered by the arrest warrant. The others have also denied wrongdoing and have said that payments made were for legitimate business reasons. The former general manager of the Omani car dealership was arrested in UAE in May 2022 and in June became subject of an extradition request from France. In January this year, Michael met Ghosn and there was no sympathy or empathy at all. Michael has to pay over $1 million of legal fees. Ghosn recognised the risk Michael took and said that he would pay for the legal fees, but he has not at this time. Michael has also contacted Ghosn's wife, but there was no response. Ghosn is basically trapped in Lebanon. He is angry about his reputation being ruined after all the work he had done to bring Renault and Nissan back from the brink. In May, he filed a lawsuit in Lebanon suing Nissan for $1 billion, accusing it and other parties of crimes such as defamation, slander, libel, and fabrication of material evidence. Ghosn told reporters, "We are going to fight it to the end."
Yes, and then more recently I found that article within the last week.
Yeah.
So a judge in Lebanon has ordered Ghosn to leave the $19 million property that he's currently residing in Beirut. And he's been living there for the past 4 years since fleeing Japan. The property isn't owned by him, but registered under the Lebanese company, don't know how you would pronounce that.
Foinos.
Yeah. Foinos or
Foinos, I think. Foinos.
The French, I'm not even French. The French in me wants to say Foinos. I don't know. But we can say Foinos. Investment. It's a Lebanese company, okay?
True.
The company initiated legal action against Ghosn, claiming he was trespassing on private property without legal basis. Ghosn argued that the property was purchased for his residence and had a signed agreement with Nissan granting him the right to reside there. However, the judge ruled that his relationship with Nissan no longer provided a legal basis for his occupancy. Ghosn has appealed the decision and is apparently supported by new documents from Japan that were previously unavailable. Ghosn has been on the offensive since his escape from Japan, and as mentioned earlier, he's got these lawsuits against Nissan and others in Lebanon seeking compensation and punitive damages. So, is he a victim or is he a villain?
Yeah, what do we think of him?
It's quite one thing that made me laugh is like in the Wanted documentary, he says that if this was happening in another country, he wouldn't be arrested. And I just thought, well, no shit, Sherlock. That's why, in countries like the US, you have stinking rich billionaire bellends like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk. They get away with making shit tons of money and treating their workers like crap. It's probably just unfortunate that he picked Japan, which have just better ethics in terms of wealth distribution, and the same in France. Like, you don't get billionaires like that.
Yeah, you don't get people flushed with cash and waving it around here, there and everywhere.
Yeah, while people working on the ground are having to buy their own stationery and throwing themselves off the company buildings, Like, okay, maybe the conditions of his arrest were a bit harsh, but it still doesn't make him innocent.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think, he's a victim of the Japanese justice system in terms that he was in terrible conditions in prison, but he's not a victim in the sense that he hasn't done anything wrong, because he obviously has. And it makes me wonder what he did at Michelin for Francois Michelin to warn Schweitzer about Renault.
Yeah, and because that was in America where whatever he did, he probably could get away with it.
Yeah, I think it was South America that it was Brazil that he was in charge of. But it just makes you wonder what he did there.
Yeah.
That was a bit dubious.
Like, on the one hand, you can see why he escaped, because it was taking ages for him to get a trial. He was being treated badly. Anyone in his position, if they could escape, they probably would have. Because, playing devil's advocate, if he stayed in Japan, he would never have been able to speak publicly about his supposed innocence.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, he's escaped.
Yeah, he's not facing justice at all. He's doing everything in his power to get away from justice.
Oh, was it? I think it was one of the journalists who said, you've escaped Japan, which means, did you know that you would be found guilty if you went ahead with the trial? So it's like...
Yeah, but at the same time, Japan has that 99% conviction rate.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a tricky fellow, and I wouldn't trust him. If I was to do business with him, I wouldn't trust him at all.
Yeah, like how many people suffered consequences so he could live his lavish lifestyle? You've got the Taylors who went to prison, and especially Michael's son.
Yeah, he had hardly anything to do with it. Well, yeah, supposedly.
At least Michael, he's lived that life of playing the hero and whatnot, but his son, it was just an innocent, well, not innocent, but he was just an accessory. And then, Greg Kelly, whether he was innocent or not, but he went through shit, and there's all this collateral damage.
Yeah.
for his greed. And yeah, he's trapped in Lebanon, but he's living quite a comfortable lifestyle.
Yeah, although the situation in Lebanon at the moment is not ideal, is it?
No, that's true. Yeah, right now it's not great. Yeah, it's terrible. But the other thing I wanted to say is, in hindsight, he's probably glad that he didn't get French citizenship, because would that have meant that he would have been extradited to France to face trial?
It depends if France have an extradition treaty with Japan.
I forgot to look into that.
Yeah, that's an interesting point.
Yeah.
I wonder if he had his knighthood revoked.
Yeah, like that's the other thing. In Japan, he got the blue ribbon. And again, that must have been such a blow to their pride. He's getting all these prestigious awards.
Yeah.
And what a fall from grace. If only that could happen to all the other billionaires.
Yeah. Some of them haven't done as awful things as...
I bet the next thing he would have done, he would have joined Jeff and what's-his-face for a race into space.
Yeah.
He would have like put himself where he doesn't belong.
Yeah. He would have put a Renault Nissan in space.
Yeah, exactly. With an Olympic torch.
Yeah.
Like, oh, yeah.
And a music box in the boot.
Yeah. But, yeah. Well, there you have it. Carlos Ghosn.
What a character. Let us know what you think of him as well.
Yeah. The billionaire Mr. Bean.
His housemaid, his housekeeper. She was so funny.
I know. She was so sweet. Bless her.
But she said really nice things about him and didn't really see the bad side of him.
No, he treated her quite well.
Yeah.
Which is quite nice, because you get some rich people who treat, what do you call it, domestic staff?
Yeah.
Household staff. They treat them like absolute shit. So in fairness, at least that was one good thing about him that we can take away. He gave her a very expensive bottle of champagne or wine or whatever when he left, and a hug or something. But, he still spent a shit ton of money very selfishly while others suffered, which is what happens in all big companies.
Most of them.
Yes. A lot of the big ones. So, next episode... I think we were kind of debating what we're going to do.
Yeah. It's definitely not what we have written on the slide.
No.
But next time we're going to do crime and neurology, or crime and the brain.
Yeah. So
what makes a criminal, I guess.
Yeah. Or if there's links to certain neurological conditions and crime.
Yeah. As you can tell, we haven't researched it yet.
We haven't researched it. I think we started it. Wasn't it during the
Portugal episode?
Yeah.
During episode 3.
Yeah, it came up and we thought, that would be a good topic to cover. And I can think of some cases that we can mention, but we just need to tidy it up and put it all together. And then the next one we'll talk about, we'll talk about someone doing actual crimes.
Yeah.
And being a bellend.
As usual.
Yeah. So yeah, do come back next time. We will have something.
Yeah. And please follow us and download us from wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to the show. We hope you enjoyed this episode. You can find more information about the show on our website at feloniouspod.com or on our Instagram at felonious.pod.
Links to our show notes can be found in the episode description, as well as through our website and social media. You can visit our Contact Us page and tell us what you think about the show and if there are any cases you would like us to cover. We hope you join us for the next episode. Goodbye.
Bye.